Okay, people. So there's a new horror flick coming to Shudder, and it is called For the Sake of Vicious Fun, which, well, for the sake of vicious, I added the fun. I mean, that it tells you a lot, right? With a title like that, you'd be like, okay, this is no love story, people. You know what I mean? So yes. Yeah, straight out the gate, you know it's gonna be something a little crazy. Well, it should be. You know what I mean? You can't be tame with a title like that, right? So it is from um Reese Eveneshen and Gabriel Carrier. You know, they directed and wrote the piece. I mean, they both wear a good few hats for this one because they both produce as well, along with Avi Federgreen. Um, Carrier handles the music along with Fox Grinder. Alex Tong is on cinematography. Evanshan does the editing. Ashley Hallahan is the casting. Um, Carrier and Evershan handled the production design. Um, Evershan was on makeup and special effects, along with Carlos Henriques, Diana Ionopoli, Ryan Lugie, Erin Stewart, and Dira Venot. And production management was Peter Sasbo. So yeah, that's that. Now, what is this film about? So an overworked nurse returns home to find a maniac hiding out with a bruised and beaten hostage. When an unexpected wave of violent intruders descend upon her home, it becomes a fight for survival. Hmm. Yes. And so yeah, we open up, right? And we see our oh yeah, cast. I didn't tell you who's in the fucking film. Man, so right, our nurse is Romina, who's played by Lora Burke. Our maniac is Chris, played by Nick Sive. Our beaten guy is Alan, played by Colin Paradine. He's, I don't know, right hand man, fixer is Gerald, played by James Fleur. Right? Alan actually has two kids, right? The oldest one is played by Aidan Bryce. The youngest is played by Mavis Ruth Stewart. Um, then there's like the hench people. So Papa is played by TJ Kennedy. Oscar, Adam Ewins. Tango is Boris Milankovic. Echo is Nick Spartan. Delta is Dorian Allen. And then there's a few bikers. So there's Billy Cottrell, Jim Luznick, and Mac Young. They're our dodgy biker crew people. Um, yeah, that's yeah. I feel that's most of our craziness up in this one, man. You know, we do see one of Romina's colleagues, and she's played by Erin Stewart, which I think may be one of Alan's kids. Is her daughter? I mean, I guess that would have helped on the set all of that, right? So yeah, as I was saying, we start off the film, we're like thrown into it, right? We just see Chris in a room with two people. He's beaten one, looks like they're unconscious, and then there's Alan, right? Alan, who he is, yeah, beating, and we just see him give him one big whack, right? Then we cut to Romina. She's at work. She's walking down a corridor. She gets to the front desk and she's taking sweets, right? Because it's Halloween, and she's like, "These are my son's favorites." And there's a little thing between her and her colleague. Don't know if it's passive aggressiveness or like what, but yeah, she comes home, and it's just like walks in, and then she senses something, right? Something weird is going on. And then Chris appears, right? Chris appears, and there's a bit of a fight. There's a bit of a fight, right? He's not exactly gentle with her, right? But then it's just like, okay, calm down, calm down, calm down. And he's like, hey, she sees Alan tied up. And then Chris, right after you mean attacking her, essentially, he's like, I want you to look at this, sit down, let's talk. Feel like, yo, it's probably you missed the boat with the niceties, son. And he gives her files, because the gist is Chris's daughter was raped 5 years ago. And these aren't sport. I mean, this, you know, this isn't really a spoiler. Whew, it's not really a spoiler, right? Because his daughter was raped 5 years ago, and he's looking for revenge. He's looking for answers, all of this jazz, right? And he's like, yo, this dude did it, right? Alan turns out to be Romina's landlord. I figure he's something else as well, because he, you know what I mean, with bodyguards and, you know what I mean, all of this. It seemed, I think he might be a politician, something, right? But he's a bit of a mucky muck, you know. And yeah, we see Chris beating him, trying to get a confession. He's denying it, and it's all kind of crazy like that. Now, it, I will say, right, because yeah, you get, it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy, but some of the reactions in these opening sequences, right, the opening third of the film, you're like, okay, yeah, I can see that. Because, and it was all right, because you know they didn't play Romina as just completely cowering in the corner and all of that. You know what I mean? She's obviously not happy and scared, but she is trying to be like, stop hitting him and don't tell me what to do. This is my house and all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Now, she's got a son. He's not home, luckily, right? So she has to convince her mum to keep the kid longer. So we have all of this play out. And yeah, I think you can look at some of that and you'd be like, all right, that feels like it would happen, you know? You know, she's trying to get him, Chris, to let him free, you know, all of that, because, you know, then she remembers, but she was the nurse that looked after his little girl. So there is that. Now, it's, I mean, some of the stuff Alan says does make you wonder. And when I say some of the stuff, because he is denying it, but I think it's the wording of what he says. I think it gives you a little pause. Right now, the film gets a little crazy. The film suddenly gets a little crazy with stuff, which then leads to all these intruders that are mentioned in the synopsis, right? All these people come, and although, right, I there is element. I mean, there's a lot in the next two thirds of the film that you'd be like, okay, yeah. I mean, I think the fight scenes and everything like that, it is crazy. It's not graceful, and you do kind of look at it like, oh yeah, I see that shit happening, you know, because these aren't trained fighters. So there's going to be a little caution, but again, they're going to be a little bit cocky. They're also not going to know exactly what to do. And we do see that play out. So that's all fine. The fights themselves, it's scrappy. You know what I mean? They're just grabbing at anything as a weapon. You know what I mean? And yeah, you feel that. You definitely feel that in what goes down. Is a lot of blood. Like, yeah, they do go crazy with the blood, right? So it has a grindhouse element with that respect, because I don't think there's going to be as much blood with some of the things that went down, you know? Now, one problem of the film is it's the reasoning, right? Because it doesn't really make much sense of why Chris brought um Alan to Romina's house. Yes, she's a nurse that um helped him, but you know, with all the places, why there? Right? You'd think, because it's a residential house on a, busy street. So wouldn't it make more sense to take him to a secluded spot, especially a secluded spot where you can see people approach, just all of that kind of jazz, right? And you think, how the fuck did he know where she lived? Yeah, she treated your kid in hospital. So how do you know where she lives? You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff here that you're like, huh? Then, as I said, you don't really know who Gerald is. He works for Alan, but that's the thing. Is it his right hand man, his secretary, PA, a fixer? What the fuck is he? Because then everything that goes on, you're like, say what? You know what I mean? There's a bit at the end. He's like, "What do you want?" I want it all. Which then that's why I think Alan is more than a landlord, and I think there's word that he's in government. I feel that was said. I can't remember. Memory is bad, but yeah, I feel that was said, which would make a bit of more sense, but still not quite. Right, so there are these plot holes. Again, residential house, all this noise, and no one is calling for help. No one is phoning, right? Now, come on. There's plenty of times on a residential street and neighbors making noise, people phone the police, right? Especially certain noise, like maybe a gunshot, or the sounds of someone getting beaten. You'd think that might bring someone around, right? But we don't see that. It's Halloween, and pumpkins outside the house and all of this. So you'd think again, loads of people knocking, right? And in this community, they would know she's got a kid, so they'd assume, oh yeah, she'll have candy, right? And especially if they've given it out the years before, that's a house of spot. But we don't really see anyone, right? So there are these holes in this plot, just the reasoning and stuff like that, because there is a point where we do get some sort of answer, and it's like, okay, so, huh? Why would, like, yeah, it's a little baffling why, you know? Now, interspun within all of this, we do see um the start of Alan's day, right? And we see the incident with, I mean, we don't, thankfully, we do not see the incident with Chris's daughter, but we see stuff around that, right? So we get all of this spun within the film. Um, yeah, it's a little crazy, people. It is a little crazy. Um, it's like 80 minutes, so it's not overly long. There did seem like there was things that maybe could have been edited down a bit, you know? But if you just want like a visceral crazy, you know what I mean? If that's what you are looking for, then I feel that this could work, right? So if you enjoyed stuff like um the recent Prisoners of the Wasteland, the recent Nick Cage crazy, you know what I mean, the dystopian cowboy samurai film, right? So if you enjoyed that, or acts of violence, if you enjoyed those on Shudder, then I think that could lead you in this. If you like grindhouse stuff, then yeah, this kind of fits. But yeah. You know what I mean? For the sake of vicious is yeah, now on Shudder, people. So yeah, go check it out. But be aware, there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of blood and a thin story. But, you know, it's very visceral. It is very, very visceral. Yeah, so the title, for the sake of vicious, does seem to fit. It really does.